So my name is Jo. I'm very happily married. I love my job. I've got two teenage kids who I like most of the time. They're pretty great. But the kids' biological father suicided when they were 10 and 14. So at the time, we'd been divorced for about 10 years. They had a very difficult relationship with him before he died. He suicided, and then there was a whole lot of issues that occurred afterwards that complicated things and made things really difficult for the kids. The reason that I want to do these interviews is I really want to, I guess, talk to other parents who are worried about their kids and the impact that somebody suiciding close to them will have on their children. The thing that was most important to me initially was I needed information, which is so hard to find because your brain is mush. So even if you get information, even trying to sift through it and the like is difficult. But I guess one of the key messages that I got, one of the most important messages was tell the truth. It is such a painful and difficult conversations to have. But the reality is, you have to tell the truth as long as it's age appropriate, like it's sort of, so you modify it according to age, of course. But there's no good time to tell your child that their father has suicided. You don't wait till they're 16 and say, oh, by the way, it wasn't actually a heart attack. It was, you can't do that to them because the only thing that you've got is, their trust in you, and you can't mess with that. It's really important to tell the truth. I think sometimes there's this internal expectation that we'll just have to get through this and we'll just get through that and we'll just get through the first Christmas and then things will be better. And it's often not. So I guess acceptance that this is the journey you're on. You're up to your eyeballs and you just have to wade through it. The first thing I'd say to somebody who's in the middle of it right now is just acknowledge how crappy it is that they're in this situation right now. There's no putting glitter on it and making it pretty somehow. It is an awful, horrible, shitty situation to be, and you're just dumped into it, and then you just have to wade your way through. And I'd be one of those really annoying people that would say, take care of yourself. But more importantly, I'd actually try and talk to them about how they do that. So I'd be like, can I take the kids while you go and swim laps? Do you want to go get a massage? Do you need, what is it that you need to do? What's your thing? They're going to act out. They have to. They're carrying so much confusion and so much emotion around what's happened to them that they're going to act out, and you're going to deal with people who are not going to understand that. And there's two things with that, as much as you can understand where that behaviour is coming from, you also can't accept unacceptable behaviour either. So it's really, really important to manage that for them or manage that with them, basically, because they're going to do things that aren't helpful for themselves and are going to make things worse. And the other thing is you can't become a whipping post for their distress. So it's about really working hard on the boundaries around what's appropriate, what's inappropriate, whilst at the same time, there's a reason that this is happening to you. I understand why you're reacting this way, but we just can't do it. So it's really complicated. I think the biggest thing for me was I wanted to know my babies would be okay because they had to deal with so much before and then everything would happen, and that's what kept me up at night was the fear about them. And the thing that I've realised is they are amazing. They are amazing, resilient, intelligent, humorous, creative human beings. And I think that's the thing that's blown me away. I am so proud of who they are. And, their compassion and intelligence. And it's that thing where, you have to love your kids. That's the rules. You just have to love them. But you don't have to like them. And the reality is I really like who they are. They're genuinely amazing people. And I think that's the thing, that we underestimate children. We underestimate what they're capable of. And when kids are put in these situations like the ones that they've been put in, it often forces a level of maturity that they shouldn't have to do. But when they attain it, You know, it's such a powerful thing. And the key thing is just support your babies. You know, like they need support from any angle and any way that you can pull it in. Counselling obviously is really important, but the counsellor's only with them 1 hour a week. You're with them the rest of the time. And don't underestimate the power of your relationship with them. If you can have that compassionate honesty with them, where you get vulnerable, then they can do the same. You do that in a safe way that helps them articulate and process what's happened to them. So often you might have to name the emotions for them. You know, you have to help them work out what's actually happening. They're allowed to feel every emotion under the sun. You know, they're going to feel love, they're going to feel hate, they're going to feel anger, they're going to feel sadness. In some cases, they might feel relief. They feel all of these different things, and they're entitled to feel every one of them. So it's so important for you to sit there with them and ride that journey. You can't fix it. You can't change it, but you can be there. We always used to have sort of family meetings on a Sunday that were just sort of like a planning meeting about what we'd do during the week or what was going on or what dinners we'd have, that kind of stuff. And we just sort of extended that format to every evening. How was your day? How did you sleep last night? What fights did you have with your friends? Or, you know, what's working for you, what's not working for you? So it meant that the other members of the family could offer support, so it wasn't just coming from me. And that was really powerful because it meant the kids could help each other. For me, I was really lucky. I had a lot of really good close girlfriends. They were incredibly supportive and quite open to whatever emotion I was having at that time. The reality is, though, is I did lose some girlfriends over this. I've heard the saying, you know, this events like these change your contact list, and it does. And it's not that they're bad people or you're bad people. It's just the pressure cooker of the situation. You're different. You can't be the same. You can't carry what you used to carry. You don't have the patience or the tolerance or the capacity to manage the way you used to. So it's really important to recognise and be accepting around what you're capable of and what other people are capable of delivering at the same time, as hurtful as that might be. Please, for the love of God, don't say, oh, whatever you need, I'll be here. I'm just a telephone call away. Whatever you need. If you don't plan to actually follow through on that. And one of the things to remember, if you make that statement, that's not talking about the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months. As I said, this is a long haul thing. That person might need you 12 months later. And it is such a hard thing to do, to ask for help in the first place, but then to get knocked back on top of that after that time frame, it's really tough. Really practical stuff. Don't try and speak to a telecommunications company when you're in that state. You just can't. You need to have somebody else to try and do that, or government departments. You need to be aware, as I said, of the anniversaries. Like every year there's the anniversaries of their death. Every year there's birthdays. Every year there's Christmas. So, you know, if you're trying to support somebody or back somebody around that stuff, put those dates in your diary and a week reminder beforehand so that you can have a chat and say, how are you going? Do you need some support? You know, I thought initially I wasn't sure whether I should talk about the dates or the reminders with the kids. But one of the things that I found is that even if they didn't consciously know the date was coming up, their bodies did. You know, they'd start to change, their behaviour would start to change, those kinds of things. So it was really, really important to have those conversations about, okay, let's have a loose plan on the day. We don't have to do it, but if you want to do it, if you want to, you know, whatever it is that you want to do, we'll get through those days. So that stuff's really important. And as I said, you've got to stay on top of school. Schools have, you know, in primary school, they've got 30 kids in a class. A teacher in a high school might have 200, depending on how many different classes over what years that they take. So although everybody wants to do the right thing, and, you know, the reality is they just end up being another kid. So, you know, they will forget. And as I said, they'll do Shakespeare and they'll talk about Lady Macbeth and her suicide. And, you know, there will be Father's Day stalls and Father's Day cards and things like that. So it's really, really important to sort of put those dates in the diary and just be on top of those so that when they come up, you can manage them. It's interesting, everyone says, "Oh, look after yourself." And you go, "Really? Are you kidding me?" Um, but the reality is this is a long haul. This is not a short-term, quick process. This is something that will be ongoing forever. There will always be things that will come up related to their father's suicide that we'll need to address and support them with. So I think the thing that's really, really important from that self-care perspective is it is real and you need to do whatever it is that you can. I've sort of meditated on and off for 20 years. And the first 8 months I tried to meditate and my brain was just, that just wasn't going to happen. But I persisted and tried, and then I'd find other things, whether it was walking the dog down the beach or gardening, something that was methodical and systematic that you could just switch off the brain and the thought processes. One of the key things that's really important with the self-care is you've just got to do whatever it is that makes you feel better, as long as it's safe. There's lots of, yeah, sure, you can get drunk, but then you got to deal with a hangover the next morning. You need to sort of think about what are the things that you can do that will help make you feel better. And at the end of the day, it's that really basic stuff. The reality is you got to try and get as much sleep as you can, which is really hard, but that's the reality. You need to eat vaguely nutritious food because, you put rubbish fuel in a car, you're going to get rubbish performance, the same with the body. And you got to move because there's so much adrenaline and stress in your system. The way your body manages that and gets rid of it is through movement. So whatever exercise you can do. So you've just got to do the best you can, recognising that you're going to be working under severe limitations. I guess the biggest thing and the most important thing for me is I just want to speak to the other parents because it's so terrifying when you go on to this journey. It is just so terrifying. But there's light at the end of the tunnel.